Hey, great afternoon to all of you this afternoon. The weather's better; it's a little warmer. I don't know about you, but I'm over the cold stuff, well over that, and hope that that stays away. And I'm ready for springtime. I'm ready to move on into. I'm ready to move on. Period. I think we all probably are there, which we will. That day's coming. But hey, this morning or this afternoon, man, I God whacked me, got his two by four back out, and smacked old Pastor Josh on the head here, which I actually like it when he does that. It makes it very clear what needs to happen and needs to do. And I had a situation that I wasn't handling properly, and I'll get to more of that a little later. But God's awesome. Our God is just amazing. Um, as I'd been pondering on God puts those convictions right in our hearts and our spirit, and when we are doing things that are outside of God's will and way, and we start to feel that uneasiness, or at least I do, in my spirit, that starts to awaken me to cut through the prideful, sinful flesh that sometimes we allow to drive the bus. Um, and this today that was going on within me. And then God used email, two devotions. Um, the first devotion that came through is my daily In Touch ministries. Great, was standing on your convictions, which was what I thought I was doing. I thought I was standing on my convictions in this situation, which again I'll explain a little more at the end here today. But so I read that all excited, and then boom! As soon as I got done with that, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. James 1:19 and 20 showed up in a long devotion on that. And as I read through that, I realized that my pride said I was standing on my convictions, but reality, I was being slow to listen, quick to speak, quick to become angry with this situation. And so I just want to walk us through that truth, just what God's walked me through today in that moment of conviction. And for some of us, that lasts longer than others. And then that confession, First John 1:9, went to God and confessed to Him um, where I was at, what I did, where I was, my motive, my heart. Um, and those things weren't right, and I asked him for forgiveness, and walked me through his word, and it's just a good time. So that's what we're going to do today. So if you would, our initial verse is going to be, or section is James 1:19 through 20. So if you would join me there, I'm going to do everything from the King James this morning. James chapter 1, starting in verse 19, and it says this. It says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." 20, "For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God." And so let's walk through the scripture here. Quick to listen, swift to hear. And for this to happen, and what God showed me today, and what I've known, right? We know these things, we just forget them in our prideful, sinful, or ignore them, whatever the motives of our hearts sometimes are not pure and not of God's righteousness, and so they lead us to these other things, and God's truth needs to bring us back into line. But quick to listen and swift to hear. This requires us to slow down. This requires us to pay attention and work, labor to truly understand what is being said and communicated. Okay, this situation with me was all done through email, which makes that even more difficult. But I did nothing to be quick to listen, swift to hear. Boom, I reacted immediately. As we listen to this, as we listen, we can't be formulating a response. We can't be looking for ways to fix or correct the issue. We can't be looking for ways or points to argue. We can't be making up our minds about what we are going to do or what we are going to say in response. That is not quick to listen. No, quick to listen, quick is quick to attempt to understand. I want to see the full picture. I want to be quick to clear my mind of any distractions. I want to be quick to clear my mind of any judgmental thoughts. I want to be quick to clear my heart and my mind of anything other than focusing on what is being communicated and making sure that I understand truly what they mean. Not what I think they mean, but what they mean. We get some more truth on this. We're going to hang out in Proverbs for quite a bit. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 18. Let me get there, then I'll write it down for us. So we are, my pencil, Proverbs 18. We're going to look at verse 13 when we get there. Proverbs 18 and verse 13. Let me get to the right chapter here. It makes better sense. It says there, he that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. And so it's important for us to understand that we have to be quick to listen. We have to truly understand, right? He that answereth a matter before he heareth it before he understands it, before he sees the full picture. A lot of times, right, we hear something and we react, and then we hear something else or more of the story, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, that changes things. I sure wish I would have known that before I said this. Well, you would have known that before you said that had you been quick to listen and slow to speak, right? And so it's important for us to understand that if we answer before we understand, we are the fool. We get the shame that comes with that. Man, I've experienced that in my life so many times, and I continue to experience that because I continue to forget this truth. It's a huge truth for us to understand. I can be very, very quick to speak and very slow to listen. And I promise you, every single time I end up being ashamed and looking like the fool. And it doesn't matter how we're listening to somebody. It can be like this, right? A video, you're hearing me. It can be a phone call, a conversation. It can be a face-to-face conversation. Maybe you're reading a text or an email, as my situation was an email. Maybe you're seeing something on Facebook, a post, right? We are called to listen and understand before we even think about responding. Think about situations in your lives where things would have been way different had you just done this truth, had you just applied this truth to your life. Slow, quick to hear, quick to listen. And we're called to be slow to speak. When we don't listen and we just speak, nothing good ever comes out of that. I have not experienced that happening well. While we're in Proverbs, flip over to Proverbs 29. Proverbs 29, and we're going to look at verse 20 when we get there, and I will type that in. Proverbs 29:20. Proverbs 29:20 says this, seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope of a fool than of him. Wow. Seest thou a man that is hasty, that is quick in his words? There is more hope of a fool, somebody who rejects God, than of him. This is a big truth here. I don't want to have less hope than a fool. When I'm quick to speak, however, I have less hope than a fool and the reason for that is because of God's word, because of these truths, I know better. I've got to apply his word and his truth to my life. I've got to be quick to listen and slow to speak. In addition to being quick to speak, when I speak before I fully understand, right, being quick to listen, I end up usually speaking way, way, way too much. God speaks about that as well. Flip back to Proverbs chapter 10. Let me get there, and then I'll type it in. Proverbs chapter 10. And when we get to 10, we're going to go to verse 19. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19 says, in the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. So what that's saying to us is the more that we speak, the more opportunity there is to sin. The more that we speak, the more that we have an opportunity to put our foot in our mouth. The more that we have an opportunity to bring glory somewhere other than God, to dishonor God. The more I talk, especially without listening and understanding, the more opportunity there is to sin. Goes along with that is Proverbs chapter 17. We're going to kind of talk about these together. Proverbs 17. We're going to look at verse 28. And it says there, even a fool when he holdeth his peace is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. Listen, when we're not quick to listen, when we don't fully understand what's going on, and we respond because of that, one, many words leads to sin. We speak way too much, right? And sometimes the wise thing to do is to say nothing or to speak very, very briefly on the topic. Sometimes a wise thing to do is to say nothing. Hi, Chrissy. It's to say nothing. When we don't understand and we don't listen and we begin to speak or react, we cause many more issues than we would have had we said or done nothing. So I told you I'd tell you a little more about the story. I had an email requesting something for work, not work here, work at the school. And instead of trying to truly understand what was going on, I just reacted. Um, and as I've reflected, and as God's convicted, and as I've searched the scriptures, and God's spoken to me through these things, I was very prideful in my response. I was very, very quick to speak and very slow to listen. And the situation has played out the last couple days, and I promise you, I did not make the situation any better. I made it worse. And in fact, I attempted to call the individual involved, and I couldn't get a hold of him, so I penned an email of apology because I was in the wrong. I was not quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Again, human anger does nothing. Human anger does nothing. When we are angry because of our emotions, when we are angry because of our pride, when we're angry because of our hard-headedness, when we're angry because we are quick to speak and slow to listen, that does nothing. When righteousness burns within us, right, and we see God made fun of, well, that's a righteous anger. We're not called to never be angry, but we're called to not be angry of our own fleshly bodies. And that's where I was at, and could have done a lot of damage. I don't think I did. I don't know. I'll face those consequences and those things as they come, right? Because I was the one who was being hard headed. And again, I've apologized, but that doesn't mean that, once we choose to do things our way and not God's way, we choose to lose the power over the consequences that come with that. I'll deal with those things as they come, and I'm sure those conversations will come and they'll be fine. Um, but I didn't handle. I was confronted with God's truth that I didn't stand on God's truth. I stood on Josh's truth. And every time I stand on Josh's truth, I end up looking a fool and having to apologize and having bad things happen. And so it's important for us to understand, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to wrath, because our wrath, human wrath, does not bring forth the righteousness of God. Anyway, hope this helps you. It's helped me, so I hope it's helped you as well. It's Thursday. We'll come together for our Friday devotion tomorrow, and again, praying for you guys, hoping that everything's well for you. If there's anything we can do, please let us know. Remember, know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we're towards the end of this thing instead of the beginning of this thing. We're going to be back to whatever normal looks like as soon as possible. I really think that's coming in the next a couple weeks, hopefully, sooner than later, is my opinion, but I'm not the one calling the shot. So we'll just be here and continue loving on each other and doing things the way we do them right now. And what we have is technology, and we'll keep doing those things through that. So praying for you. Hope that things go well. And if you need anything, reach out. Love you. See you tomorrow.